Okay, so we're on to the wings of the Pug version 2. Now, I've just laid the plan down. What I normally do is I'll just give it a little bit of an iron to flatten it down. I'm using a marker board, sorry, a pin board from School Supplies. Now let me just show you this. That's it here. It's great putting in pins. My only advice is be careful, because if you go for grey, there's various colours. The grey was coming off on mine. Now the other thing you can see here, right, you've got ribs from 1 to 19 either side. My advice is I would just get one complete set out, so that then it looks nice that you've got ribs all the one side. So we're just going to need the ribs, we're going to need the main spar, and for the time being just a trailing spar, trailing edge spar, and let's crack on. Okay, so the first thing is I've cut all my ribs out. Now we're looking for the thick carbon tube, the thickest of the carbon tube, that's your boom, so that can go back in the box. And then you've got the slightly thinner one, that's your main spar. So you've got your thick spar, you've got your two shorter spars, that's thinner gauge spars, and the longer one actually goes on the trailing edge like so. Don't cut this off, because there is a specific reason for that. So don't cut these to match at the moment. And the leading edge spar is going to go onto there like that. Again, don't cut that one off either. So first thing we want to do, just give this a very light sand. The reason being is when these are made, they've got a little bit like a de-waxing agent on them, and sometimes it can just stop the glue sticking. So I've literally just got very fine emery paper, what's that, 400, and I am just going to give that just a couple of licks, like so, not going mad. And then you can see that I have laid out some of my sanded ribs, 1 to 19. So I've got my ribs 1 to 19, and basically what we've got to do is we've got to insert all the ribs in sequence onto this main spar. So I'm going to slowly do that, and then you can come back when you've had a cup of tea. Okay, so let me just tell you the process of what I've done. I've just popped a little bit of the scrap wood using the square edges from here, and all I've done is I've just pinned that trailing edge spar in place, remembering that that long bit has to stick right out. I've adjusted all my ribs to about the right place. Now I've just got a little bit of blue tack, and I've just popped that in place to hold the spar in place. Now I'm going to use one of these braces here, and then all I'm going to do is I am just going to use this square edge like so to make sure that all my ribs are lined up. Now do not do the interstitial half ribs at the moment, we'll do those later, but at the moment I'm just going to sort the main ribs out. Right, so I've got my main ribs are glued in place, they're all square using this template. Now the next thing we're going to need is you're going to need two of these. You're going to need an F and an R. So R for rear, F for front. So the idea is that these are going to just drop into, that's going to pop in there like so, and then that one is going to pop into there like so. Right, so I've put my the F and R in place. Little tip, I use this little gauge actually just to make sure that I got this the same width all across, because this is where your dihedral brace is going to go in. And then the idea is we then obviously drop that in there like so. Now don't get it right up close, because if you happen to get some glue on it, you'll be flying around with that hanging off the wing. So I've got mine in place, and I've just tapped a little bit of cyno in there at the moment, bearing in mind that this is going to get sheeted. Don't worry about these little gaps at the back here. This is all going to get sheeted. It's all part of the master plan. Right, got my dihedral brace fitted. We now just need one of these bad boys, and that's going to fit into this corner, and then we're going to add the leading edge. Look at that, that's just dropped straight in. This is going to get glued, and then we're going to add the carbon leading edge. Okay, so I've got my little tip block here in, making sure you've got it in the right position, and I've now pinned mine. I'm not going to use the thread technique. I've just got 3 pins there, and now what I'm very carefully going to do is bit by bit I am just going to slowly glue these, and I'm going to get them in position. We're not gluing these sub ribs at the moment, but I'm literally going to get these into position, and then when I'm happy I'm going to pop something in there like so. Remember, every rib has got a little notch on it like so. Just make sure that your carbon rod engages into here. Right, okay, I have tacked along. So basically what I did was I started with these two, and then what I found worked for me was if I held that one and pinned that one, so that when I got that pinned I could then just glue it and then just work along. So they're all now pinned. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to slide the intermediate ribs all back into place, making sure that they're square. You can use this template again, and now I'm going to glue all the intermediate ribs in exactly the same fashion. Okay, so we cut out 2 of these sheets. I have just tapered the leading edge slightly. That's going to fit on there like so. Now I am going to fit mine flush on rib 2, but leave it slightly extending rib 1, because I'm going to sand all that to shape when I've lifted this off. That's then going to stick onto there like so, and I am just going to mark. So the only thing we have to do now is to remove 2 of these and a tip. And the idea is that that's going to drop on there like so. That goes on there, making sure that that actually fits on the center of this carbon spar. And then that will go on there. Just like that. Okay, so I have cleaned up my wing, and I then cut this slot between the F and the R. And the idea is I then very gently fed my dihedral brace, the plied dihedral brace, which I've cut out and fitted in there. Just took my time. This was quite useful, just opening up the space. So the idea is that's going to drop into here. Now the next thing we're going to need is we're going to need this rib. There is only one of these ribs, so I have to be quite specific in the instructions about how we've actually got to cut it, because we need to be left with certain channels for the wing bolts. So the idea is that at the back here, this gets cut off flush. So I'm just going to go through this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you that. I'm just going to clean this up. So that's the first bit cut off. And the idea is that this bit here, when it's cleaned up, is going to get glued to here, like so. Now, the second bit, what we have to do is that there's just these two little bits we need to remove. So the idea is that this is going to get fitted onto the front of the spar, and what we need to do is we just need to remove this and this here, those little nubbins as we'll call them. So what I need to do is I'm going to then remove those, and then that then sits in front of the spar, like so, butted up against the spar. So what you're looking for is a configuration like so. Now, the reason for this is that this is going to be the front wing bolt, and then this little notch here, when you've actually glued that on, we're then going to cut that off afterwards. So we're actually going to cut a little slot here. So I'm just going to clean these up now, put this all together. Well, there we go. There, the wing is finished. Now, you'll note that there's no DLG peg in here. I've already got a DLG peg, and Andy very kindly asked me which version I wanted, and when I heard there was the offering of a V-tail, I was like, oh, shall I, shan't I? But in fact, actually, I've plumped for a Res version. So the idea is that I'd like to do this as a Res glider, so there's going to be no need for me to do the launch pegs. I've got one already. The wing was very easy to build. I would suggest, so follow the instructions very, very carefully. And also one last little tip, I would suggest that when you've got the wing tips on, sand them before you actually join the wings together, because I think you just might find that a little bit easier. Anyway, there she goes, running in at 22 grams. I'm going to leave you all guessing to how I'm going to finish it. Ooh. And so the next thing now is literally covering and making the pod boom for the fuselage. So that's the next video, is going to be virtually sort of finishing off, you know, tailplane and fitting the boom and all that type of thing.